We'll call to order the City Commission meeting. Today is Monday, June 26, 2023. It's 5:30 p.m. Would you please rise for the invocation and the pledge? Heavenly Father, we ask you to look over us tonight. Help us to make good decisions for the city of Leesburg. We do this in your name. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, tonight we have no proclamations. The presentation is going to be at the end. Got a little question?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay, all right. So we'll move on to item 4, public comments. This section is reserved for members of the public to bring up matters of concern or opportunities for praise. Issues brought up will not be discussed in detail at this meeting. Issues will either be referred to the proper staff or will be scheduled for consideration at a future City Commission meeting. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Do we have any public comment? If you please give us your name and your address.
Just the commissioners. Gary Custer, 8909 East Treasure Island Avenue, Leesburg. Most of the time I talk to you about the 44. This is also about 44. As you can see, the first picture that you're going to look at is from August of 22. The road's flooded from the development up on top of the hill there, which is Silver Lake Point. And now it's 11 months later and the same issue, the same problem. It's an engineering problem, and I've talked to the city about it. I've talked to the county about it, but nobody seems to resolve the issue. So I'm bringing the pictures to you so you all can see them and see what we're dealing with. Somebody's going to come over this hill when this road's flooded, hydroplane, and have an accident, a head-on accident. If you look at some of these pictures, you can see that the wash goes clear across to the other side of the road. There's clay water running down the other side of the road on the third picture. That's how much clay is washed down the hill. It's washing all the way down to the swamp at the bottom of the hill. That sediment is going to plug that swamp. You're going to have no drainage. You're going to have stagnant water, and it's a mess. But nobody wants to do anything. I don't know why. The engineers talked to, Al sent somebody out there the other day. I talked to him on the phone. He wanted to know what the issue was. He was going to talk to the people there. He said he did, and that they were going to resolve the problem. The way they resolved the problem was to build a dam across the driveway. So the water is directed, but it didn't do any good. The first time they did that, it washed it out. Washed it all the way down the hill. Same thing, same problem. You know, I don't know who's going to resolve it or how it's going to get resolved, but somebody's got to do something about it. Like I said, somebody's going to have an accident, and somebody's going to be responsible. I don't know who. More than likely, it'll be the developer. But you guys approved it. Some of you were here then. Some of you are new. But you approved it. Somebody's got to fix it. Please address it.
Is your concern with just the runoff coming out of the driveway? Is that?
Well, the runoff wouldn't come out of the driveway if it was designed right. It's designed wrong. I've looked at the backside of it. I drove around. You can drive up through Silver Lake and come up to the backside and look. They made a retention area. They dug down all the way through the clay layer so they could make retention that would perk away. That's the way to do it. It's all dished, and there's a cul-de-sac now built on top of it. They paved over the top of it. I understand how that works. All the water's channeled down, and it comes to the cul-de-sac, and then it's supposed to drain away. If you look at the cul-de-sac, the dirt on each side of that cul-de-sac is tiered. It's been filling before it ever drains away. Who's going to want to live there with a pond in front of them that they can't drive through? I don't know how long it takes to perk away, but the other day when I went back there, you can see where it's been washing away. But it's got to be redesigned so the water goes the other way. No water should come out onto the road. Dan Miller always says that all retention has to be retained on the property. That's according to your PUD. But it doesn't happen. You know, somebody's got to fix it. Somebody's got to figure it out. Thank you.
I was just going to say, I'm confident they'll get it right. You know, as we've talked about before, projects do have to be self-contained. We've had some minor complaints on other projects with similar issues. It wasn't going onto a road this busy, and I'll just tell you the developers did fix it, and I'm confident they'll fix this one. But I appreciate you bringing it to our attention.
11 months. In 11 months, they
Well,
fixed it.
the developer will get it right. He will get it right.
Hopefully nothing happens in between.
Hi, Ray Hayden, 35121 Dennis Road. In relation to this, but not on that site, because the gas lines are being buried in there. I just on the way over here now, I looked at it and I saw that there is an issue. There's a community that's already been built there. It's been there for years. That any runoff that comes down that area is going to be going down into that development as well. I don't know the name of that development. It's been there for years. It was there when we moved here in 2018, and it's there now. But I was looking at some of this stuff was done in the process of burying the gas pipe, and you can see that the water's going to be there, and it's going to go down that hill because it's downhill from there. Water, you know, it only goes downhill. The other thing about the point thing is the front. You mentioned the driveway thing. What I noticed is when the last time I forget when it was, the last flood that they had that y'all got interested in because it was happening, it was bad. I looked over there again, coming over here now, and I saw that the thing that they did to fix it, they like made two big channels on either side of the driveway kind of thing, if you're aware of it. And what happened is those failed, and I could see the washouts coming from each one of those. So it's not like just coming down a driveway. It's coming down just in front of the first fix, and then that's what washed down, and you can see it in the images that you have there. And it came down so fast. I have a video on YouTube about it, and these images are from the video, and it came down and it shoots across the whole road. That's why there's those, you see the red canals on both sides of the road. That's why, because it came down and went right across the road. And then there was another one in the video. You can see it. There's a truck going through there, and I just got the 55-mile-an-hour speed limit in the video too. And there's this huge rooster tail of red clay just flying off. That's on the same side as the development to the east side of the road. So that's the things going on. So there's that other kind of stuff, no matter where this is. And then the other that the water's going to go draining down on a 44, and it's going to go down into that other. It's a silver lake, estates or whatever. It's that place. It's right there. I mean, it's a community that's been there for years, and you can even see the lake from their property. Anyway, and there's one more thing. The Silver Lake Point thing, the new thing there. The top of that hill is that's the high point. So any of the water that comes down, it doesn't get into their filtration system, or if they don't have another one, I kind of get the impression that they're making another one there a little lower. But anything that gets past that's coming right onto the road. There's no way to stop. I don't foresee any real way to be able to successfully stop that. So we're just going to keep our eye on it, and we'll let you know. Thank you very much.
Joni Smalley, Leesburg Partnership, 1002 South 9th Street. Forget where I live. I wanted to remind everybody, 4th of July, City of Leesburg's 4th of July celebration will be on the 4th of July, Tuesday. The Kids Zone food and entertainment will start at 3 o'clock at Ski Beach, and the fireworks will be at 9. The lightning game is at 5:30, and we hope everybody comes down. We will be publishing the parking and the traffic change for it in the next couple days. Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Christina Foster, My address is 2106 Woodland Boulevard, and that's in the Woodland Park community. And I would just like to say we have an issue with homeless people staying in the woods around our house. They're coming into our neighborhood, taking things that don't belong to them. And I just want to say, it's my little corner. Everybody in my little corner is 80 plus. And I'm going to protect my neighbors any way I can. I'm going to protect them. So I would like for y'all to address something to be done to either get them out or keep them out. Thank you.
Any other public comment? We'll move on to item 5, the consent agenda. Routine items are placed on the consent agenda to expedite the meeting. If the commission staff wish to discuss any item, the procedure is as follows. 1, pull the item or items from the consent agenda. 2, vote on remaining items with 1 roll call vote. And 3, discuss each pulled item and vote by roll call. Are there any items anyone would like to pull?
C3.
With 5C3. 5C3. Anything else?
Do we need to pull 5C1 to determine?
Yes.
All right, I'll pull 5C1, please.
Thank you. Okay, we've pulled 5C1, 5C3. That it for everybody? We have a motion?
Yeah, motion to approve the remaining items on consent agenda.
Second.
Roll call?
Commissioner Connell,
Yes.
Commissioner Reisman,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Berry,
Yes.
Mayor Burry.
Yes. Would somebody please introduce 5C1?
Introduced and asked to be read by title only.
It's a voting delegate designation for the Florida League of Cities Annual Conference.
Just a brief explanation on this. It's a pretty simple resolution. Each year, the Florida League of Cities conducts their annual conference. Typically, I think this year in Orlando, typically we have 1 or 2 members of the commission who attend that meeting. As part of the process in the business meeting of the conference, there's a delegate that's appointed from whatever city is there. I think to date, nobody from our community, no elected official yet, has signed up for the conference. So the purpose is to designate 1 member. As of now, you don't have anybody signed up. That may change between now and August. So we just need to formally recognize whoever goes. And you can give that authority to me if you only have 1. We can probably write a proclamation or something to get that person authorized. If there's 2, it might be back before you, but this is more of a reminder type of thing that this is coming up.
Okay. Yeah, and I know I'm the designee, but that's right during budget, so I was not planning on going. So you plan on attending, and you can vote?
Typically, I don't go to that. Typically, I haven't gone to any conferences.
Okay.
But it's not a big deal if no one does attend. But if someone does attend, then we just need to make sure that we get that person to be the designated
Do you remember
appointee.
it's August 12th? Is that
I
right?
want to say.
It's Wednesday, August 12th, because we have budget day before and day after.
Typically, get with me or Pam, and we'll get you registered if you want to go. And if the issue arises again, we'll bring it to your attention.
Budget is July. This is August.
Oh, I thought it was.
It's August.
Oh, I thought it was. Okay, my bad. Okay. I thought it was July 12th, so I'll relook at my calendar.
So maybe we could,
Just
we got time
table
for next-
table
it
the
for-
issue.
Okay, sorry about that.
Do we need a motion to do that, Grant?
Yeah, we'll just do a motion to table.
Okay, can I get a motion to table that item?
A motion to table to the next meeting.
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Reisman,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Berry,
Yes.
Commissioner Connell,
Yes.
Mayor Burry.
Yes. Would someone please introduce item 5C3?
I'll introduce and ask to be read by title only.
Review the basis of design report to add a fluoride injection system to the water distribution system and discuss further action.
Yeah, motion for approval.
we need a second for motion for approval.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion?
Yeah, I have a few questions. Is the equipment and everything that's in the proposal, is that just going on one particular water plant?
The equipment in this proposal will take care of the Leesburg water system except for plantation.
Okay, so we don't have any valves or anything? If we inject this into one plant, it's going to really migrate, if you will, throughout the whole city?
I
We
don't,
have any-
do you know how many injection points are in the plan, Cliff? Is it just the one? And that's how we had it set up before. In the main plant, which then chlorinizes all the water in the main Leesburg system, not the plantation system.
So injecting one plant is going to make it throughout the whole city.
That's what Dewberry tells us.
And it's going to be equally distributed throughout the city.
That's,
Not equally.
why don't you come up here, Cliff?
Actually, I have the engineer right here, Brent, who can probably explain it better than I can.
Yeah, Brent White, Dewberry Engineers. We haven't done enough study to tell you exactly where it's going to migrate. What we did do at this point in the preliminary design was the flow that the main water treatment plant is putting out on the shared distribution system is about 65% of the total flow going into that distribution system. If we would want to very clearly define where that's going to migrate to, we'd have to do some more hydraulic modeling or potentially a tracer study to see how far out into the system it's all going to reach.
Or you could wait till the system was in and then test to see.
Correct.
Where it is.
Our plan is to install fluoride analyzers at all the other plants as well. So then you would see it at the entry to the plant at various points in the system. You could see if it's reaching that area.
So the biggest bang for your buck would be at the main plant. You're going to get the majority. We don't know to what level it will migrate throughout the system, but it's going to be the best at the main plant. So that's why we chose that as a single point of injection.
I kind of honestly think that that's a bit of a trip hazard there. I mean, you want to chlorinate or fluoride or you don't want to fluoride. Remember, the levels per million that we're talking are pretty small. So, it's not a shocker that if you put X amount in, you get reasonable coverage to meet the standard. You're not talking about a whole lot of fluoride.
Another question, going to chlorine. Do we inject that at one point? Or is it injected in?
That's injected at every plant. Obviously, that's a disinfection chemical that's required.
Right.
Whereas fluoride isn't required by the state.
Right.
So certain homes could get higher levels of it versus other homes, is what you're saying?
Depending on where you are in the distribution system, yes. I mean, if you're closer to one of the smaller plants, you're gonna most likely get the water from that plant.
So we're not really accomplishing what the commission really wants to accomplish by doing this, because we don't know, but it's $350,000 to find out if it's even going to work. Second question is, I don't think we should be enforcing our will on the citizens to put stuff in their water they don't want. I've had several people reach out to me that they don't want fluoride in their water. And I just don't, I think this is overreaching on our part to mandate that they have to have fluoride
So
in
are
their water.
75% of the communities in the state of Florida overreaching?
I can tell you what the people, the citizens I've spoke to have said. So I think you got two issues. One is we don't even know if this is even going to work. And two is I don't think we should be mandating to our citizens what has to go in their drinking water.
I have a question, please. Wasn't the fluoride in the water prior to, before?
Naturally occurring.
Yes.
Yes. And does your design mimic what we had before?
I'm not entirely familiar, but it's a typical fluoride system that would be most likely similar at all the various facilities. Yep.
Al Purvis, Chief Operator. Originally, we only had it installed at the main water treatment plant. It was always just one injection point. And the way the system was back then, they were isolated between the east system, which is a mall and airport, and the south system, which includes everything down south. The people down south are retired for the majority. So if we just install it at the main plant, it will migrate through because everything is an open system now. And that's why we need to monitor it. The bulk of it will be at the main plant.
This current system is similar to the old system.
So Al, that means everything in the south will be smaller amounts that probably won't meet the minimum?
Water, it will migrate east and south, but we're the best bang for the buck for the reason that this commission wants to do this
will be covered.
Would be covered.
Minority areas, low-income areas, plant. Carver Heights, downtown.
Yes.
Core Leesburg is covered like it was before.
Yes.
And so the folks that we're trying to affect the most, minority, disadvantaged, low-income folks who don't get fluoride cover somewhere else would get it from this modification. Yes. Folks who probably don't need it so much, seniors, Legacy, Plantation, Arlington Ridge, probably will get very little,
yes,
if any.
But I still want to monitor it and have to monitor it.
Sure.
Because once this chemical goes in, I have regulatory compliance issues that I must address with many different agencies.
Right. So with that answer, I just think your answer, and look, there's not a dog in the fight on this from staff side. You know, we're going to do what y'all say, but I think the crux of the matter is to return the system to the way it was pre-2000, which this accomplishes that. And it's your legislative decision whether you want to return to that.
Any other questions?
I have a question, please. Can you explain what the 80,000 contingency was as far as on the estimated proposed dollar amount?
It's pretty typical, Commissioner, that whenever we do a project, we add a contingency in there for whatever unforeseen topics happen.
Would this be in part of it, the contingency, in which
Yeah, so
we're
we
referencing now?
we might better by 80 grand.
Okay.
We might, hopefully we
less than that,
don't,
go-
but that's the plus or minus error
Yes.
in there. So when you see these contracts come up in the future, you'll see a contingency.
Okay.
We have public comment.
Bill Polk, 600 Cascade Avenue, Leesburg, Florida. We have gone through this before. I've always been told if you look at history, then you can not run into a bad system. We shut that system down, just like Al said, for a reason. Ray Sharp was the water treatment plant guy then. We shut it down. We had doctors in here for 2 months, dentists, doctors, people arguing about where we need fluoride in water. Every tube of toothpaste has got enough fluoride in it to keep all your teeth happy. And now you've got an ineffective system that's not even going to cover the old people. Y'all want our teeth to fall out too? I don't think so. So the fluoride deal has been a past history thing. If you look back in your records, you'll see where we shut it down for a reason. It's very, very expensive to maintain to start with, and it's not that effective. You're going to, like Al said, you're going to get that much fluoride in the water in some of Leesburg. And then nobody said anything about the maintenance cost of what this is going to cost to do all the testing that he's talking about. I don't know how much you're going to spend on this whole project, but you can hand out toothpaste on the corner down on Main Street and get everybody happy. You don't have to put in all this fancy stuff that they're going to do. It's not necessary. I mean, I don't know where you're getting your information from on that we need fluoride.
Yeah.
I don't know where you're getting that information from, but if you talk to any dentist that I go to and have been to, we don't need fluoride in the water. It's actually a poison. Fluoride is actually a poison.
We disagree on that point.
Who, me and you, or the whole group?
You and I on that.
Okay, because I think the group needs to know what they're looking at.
Yeah.
They're looking at a lot of maintenance. They're looking at an ineffective system to start with. We just talked about that. So you're not going to be equal in anything, and we need to start being equal to a lot of things around here. But we went through that years ago, 10 years ago, or however long I was on the commission, and we shut it down because it wasn't effective, and we all voted against having the fluoride put in the water anymore. We did have one dentist that was on Lake Sumter TV, or not Dennis, the guy from Lake Sumter TV, he went crazy on that we should have it in there, but nobody else voted for it. So,
Well, we have a letter from
well, you get a letter from anybody.
every dentist in Lake County signed on to promoting
Every dentist
fluoride.
in Lake County.
Yes.
Not the ones I go to, and I go to 3 of them in Lake County. I can name them if you want. They
Well,
might have
just-
signed on, not knowing what they're signing on, just to get
Well, I
the
think
paper
they
out of
know
their
what they're
office or
signing
something.
on,
But
Bill.
they all
The
told
American
me
Academy of Pediatrics says it's a good idea. The American Academy of Medicine says it's a good
and
idea.
then you got the other
the
group
American
that says
Dental.
it's poison. You got the other group that says it's
And
poison.
who is that?
Everybody. Look up, pull it up on your phone right now. Pull up Google. Ask them what fluoride is. It's a poison.
Yeah, and
believe me.
Darrell Crane, Helms Avenue in Leesburg. The only thing I want the commission to know are there are children that live in the areas that every plant in the city of Leesburg serves. And it was brought up that the southern plants have a lot of retired people. All of our plants have a lot of retired people on them. But every system that pumps water out to our customers at the city of Leesburg has children living in them.
Any other comment? Any other public comment? Roll call.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell?
No.
Commissioner Reisman?
No.
Mayor Burry?
Yes. Okay. We'll move on to item 6, public hearings and non-routine items. Second reading of ordinances. Would someone please introduce 6A, 1, 2, and 3?
It has to be read by title only.
6A1, an ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, annexing certain real property consisting of approximately .97 plus minus acres, being generally located south of Griffin Road and east of Snowburger Avenue, lying in Section 21, Township 19 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, providing that said property so annexed shall be liable for its proportionate share of the existing and future indebtedness of said city, providing that such annexed property shall be subject to all laws and ordinances of said city, as if all such territory had been a part of the city of Leesburg at the time of passage and approval of said laws and ordinances, providing that such annexed territory shall be placed in City Commission District 1 and providing an effective date. 6A2, an ordinance amending the future land use map of the comprehensive plan of the city of Leesburg, changing the future land use map designation of certain property containing .97 plus minus acres from Lake County urban high density to city of Leesburg industrial for property generally located south of Griffin Road and east of Snowburger Avenue, lying in Section 21, Township 19 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date. 6A3, an ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, changing the zoning on approximately .97 plus minus acres from Lake County RP Residential Professional to City of Leesburg M1 Industrial to allow for business expansion in industrial for property generally located south of Griffin Road and east of Snowburger Avenue, lying in Section 21, Township 19 South, Range 24 East, Lake County, Florida, and providing an effective date.
Move for approval?
Yeah.
Oh.
You need a second?
Yeah.
Yeah, a second.
Grant, would you work your magic, please?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. If anyone in the audience is present this evening who wishes to speak on these items, if you would please stand and raise your right hand so you could be sworn in. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
So, do we have a staff presentation?
We can.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. This is an expansion of an existing business, so it's a little bit of economic development. It's the same ownership, but the property under review tonight is not in the city at this time. But Gorman Plumbing is an adjacent property owner, and they're simply expanding. So they needed the annexation, a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment, and a rezoning.
Would the petitioner like to speak on it? You want anything?
Just if there's questions.
Any other public comment? Any other staff comment? Not much. Any comment from the commission? Roll call.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Reisman?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Mayor Burry?
Yes. So that would be for 6A1, we need to vote. For 6A2, roll call.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Commissioner Reisman?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Mayor Burry?
Yes. And then 6A3.
Commissioner Reisman?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Commissioner Connell?
Yes.
Mayor Burry?
Yes. Okay, move on to 6B1, first reading of ordinances. Someone please introduce 6B1.
I'll introduce and ask to be read by title only.
An ordinance of the City of Leesburg, Florida, amending the City Code of Ordinances by amending Chapter 22, Section 22-7, Natural Gas Line Installation Procedures, providing for severability, providing for inclusion in the Code of Ordinances, providing for conflicts, and providing an effective date.
Any comments? Someone, non-routine items, we have none. Informational reports, we have none. City attorney items?
Yes, sir. Briefly, just wanted to inform everybody the closing on the south 500-acre parcel is scheduled to happen this week, so we should have that wrapped up. I've got documents here for the mayor to sign this evening, so by the end of the week, we should have that transaction wrapped up. Outside of that, I'll be attending the municipal attorney seminar down in South Florida on the back end of next week. So hopefully we'll get some good information about some of the legislation and other things that have come out, and I'll be happy to share that information with the commission on the back end of that. But that's all I've got. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
City manager items?
Yeah, I just wanted to, I put one on the agenda, but there's a couple of issues that came up this evening I think it'd be appropriate to address. I know they're difficult, so I'll do those first and maybe end with the good news, because whenever we deal with emotional issues, they're emotional. They get 3-2 votes, and, one way or another, they're contentious. One of the people from the public spoke about the homelessness. It's just a difficult issue that we tackle at the city for a bunch of different reasons. From being a protected class of citizen with different issues that homeless have, it's a difficult issue, and I think just about every community in the nation struggles with it. It's not a Leesburg issue. But if you're having these type of issues where you've witnessed or have theft or crime committed against you from homeless folks, the best thing to do is just contact the police department. The homeless folks they're not above the law either, and when they do break the law and they get caught breaking the law, they get arrested. So that's the best thing that we can do for right now. So just report those incidents and don't be bashful and call the police department. On the drainage and development issues that were spoken about, specifically in the 44 corridor, I think it's important to point out there is a delineation between what the commission does on adopting development versus development of an approved subdivision. So we talk about a lot of different things when we adopt or approve developments. We talk about runoff, we talk about densities, we talk about fencing, we talk about styles of housing, so on and so forth. And those things are approved. Sometimes those developments don't even see a hammer, sometimes they do. We're in a situation now where many of the things that you have approved are actually getting developed. Last year, maybe about 18 months ago, we changed the composition of the Public Works Department to tackle developing subdivisions better. You'll recall the ordinance that we did, the creation of an assistant deputy director in the Public Works Department, which is Ryan Gurdon, who has talked with folks, and Ryan Gurdon regularly wrestles with developers. And whether it's stormwater issues, whether it's not getting sod down, these type of things. In this particular case, at this subdivision, they did have a breach. It's not the first time. And the best thing that we can do is we'll continue to be vigilant. Disappointed that it did occur. I don't think that's because this body approved the subdivision. The city is doing our best to manage those type of things. But when those issues do come up, please, again, contact the city. We are working with the developers. I think Ryan's been successful in communicating that, and also keep in touch with those other regulatory agencies, especially St. John's. I think it's probably a little overreaching to say bad engineering. These things are reviewed, they are approved. St. John's approves them. They're designed by professional engineers, but there's always that bridge between finished product and final development, which is painful for existing residents, which is why we changed the way we did with the codes and added additional personnel to try to tackle these things. As far as fines and these type of things, when sediment and pollution gets out, unfortunately, that is not in the city's authority. We can try to enforce the best we can, but contact with St. John's is really the best because that's the real enforcement arm. That's where developers can be hit. So encourage folks to keep in touch with Ryan, my office, and we're doing the best we can to manage the developers. Lastly, on the other topic tonight that came up, fluoride, as promised, we brought that before the body, before final design, into bid phase. So there'll be probably 45 to 60 days to finish up the design. We'll go out to bid, so you can actually expect this topic back again when the final contract comes before the body to approve. So that, and according to the engineer's estimate, that'll be somewhere in the neighborhood of 350 grand, or it was 650. We were about 10 grand under budget, and the annual operating costs we had estimated at 65 grand, which was about 10 grand under what we estimated when we started out. So that will still be before the body again, but the next time it will come before you, it will be in contract form to execute the construction contract. Maybe good news. Hey, Brandy, if you could show the other graph first, the bar graph. Pursuant to the rules and operations of the city manager is ultimately charged with the responsibility of adjusting the bulk power cost rate. Unfortunately, back in September of 21, we jacked it way up for all those issues that we discussed. I think it's important to point out when we did that increase, we were estimating power costs on the blue lines. So if you average all those blue lines together, the average megawatt cost that we were anticipating for fiscal year 23 was about $128 a megawatt. Mind you, before we had the issue with gas prices, cost a megawatt was somewhere around $80, $85 a megawatt. So that increase is where we needed to recover the losses and to pay for what we thought were going to be exorbitant fuel costs moving forward. Since that time, really the few things happened that we've talked about. I've reported back to this body. If you're watching our Rate Watchers site on the website, there's been quarterly reports from me to the customers explaining kind of where we have been. And I think this body was wanting to wait to recapture that total loss, which we estimated at the $12.5 million level, before we brought back the rate. So basically the few things that happened were, one, we really had a cooler winter than expected up in the Northeast, which helped minimize some of the impact of supply and demand on gas. Few pieces of legislation, but the other piece was FMPA's hedging. So those hedges kicked in starting April 1st, and we have gas prices hedged for about the next 18 months. So with that hedging in place, even if we lose on the hedging, which we might a little bit depending on where the market market goes. What's different now than in September is because of that hedge, we know where the price, or pretty close, where the price of natural gas is going to be. I think I made that report to you guys back in May or June timeframe, and we thought, let's wait and see, because the three tricky months that we always have are March, April, and May, where we have low sales but high demand, so we typically under-recover those months. What happened this past few months is in that quarter, we over-recovered far above what we thought anticipated, so that's a good thing. So what happened was we got more money back. I'll show you that in the slide. So we over-recovered quicker than anticipated. So take that over-recovery and now mix it with the anticipated fuel costs and back to the $80, $85 a megawatt range. Our average for the fiscal year is going to be $102. So that's a significant decrease. So put it in the mix, and what happens is, when we started out, we anticipated this bulk fuel cost deficit. So this was, remember, we're trying to get the power cost collections back, the excess power cost that we had. Our bottom was about a $9.7 million loss in the BCPA, but remember, we like to keep this balance at $3 million. So it's this number plus $3 million. So you hear us talk about 12.5 all the time. So that's how you get total loss. So we want this line to return and stay stable at around $3 million. So as you see, up until about April, our number wasn't too bad. We were pretty close in recoveries to where we thought. But then starting in April, what we see is we see the divergence that because that power cost number is going down, we can lighten up on the power cost reimbursement. And so with the 3 good months, we're sitting around $1.3 million unrecovered. And we see that the price is really going to be at a spot to where we can lower that fuel cost now, not just to recoup, but by the end of the fiscal year, we think we'll be in the black. So that number comes from 7 cents a kilowatt to 3 cents a kilowatt. The hope then at the end of the fiscal year is, one, that we have a total recovery of the $12.5 million, and secondly, that the loss is recouped, and then third, because we know we have high sales in the summertime when the bills are most expensive, you're giving customers a break. So you'll see some different utilities around the state who have announced lowered fuel costs for these reasons. Mount Dora is one. FPL is another. Those are two utilities off the top of my head who I know who have adjusted their fuel costs for the summer. And I think we can follow in suit. So that's good news. It's a significant reduction. I'm not using the words you're going to have a lower bill, because in the summer you typically have a higher bill. So what you'll see is, versus the 7 cents versus the 3 cents, your bill will be lower than where the fuel cost was at 70 cents. My guess is if we stayed at 70 cents, we'd significantly over-recover by June or July, and then we'd be probably sitting on a surplus of around $5, $6, $7 million. Now that's a $2 million range, but that's why we believe that we can go ahead and lower the fuel costs. It puts us back into a range of just a tick under $138 a megawatt. The unfortunate situation is that is now becoming competitive with the state, but it's nowhere close to where we were before. It's probably 10 or 15 bucks still more than what we were before all this started. We were hanging out around 117, 120. So at 138, that's still relatively high versus where we were kind of, I don't want to say energy crisis, but before the issues happened with global supply and demand, the war, and efforts to go to more green energies around the nation created the increase in fuel costs. So that's the report. I think it's good news. Leesburg will be looking like other utilities. The recovery is moving ahead of schedule, and the rate returns. So those were all the things that we had talked about back in September. moving forward, it's a little bit of a crapshoot. I think probably 3 cents gets it for a little while. If our projections are correct and costs stay in that $85, $90 a megawatt lumber, there may be another penny or half a penny we can knock off the power cost adjustment come the beginning of the fiscal year. Obviously, we'll keep in touch. We'll continue doing the updates on the website and keep that power cost adjustment number as low as we can.
Thank you, Al. Any questions? All right. Roll call.
Commissioner Reisman?
Yes, just one thing. I know the city just released the City of Leesburg development map on the website. A huge thank you to the GIS, IT, and Planning and Zoning. And I wanted to see if Al could give a brief overview of that new feature.
One of the things Commissioner Reisman asked when he came in office was to I don't know if advertise is right, but just more dissemination of information, especially with reference to development issues. We kind of copied the wheel here. So what we did was we basically have posted all the subdivisions that have been approved. It's on the website now. You can kind of scroll over, and it's commercial and residential development, so it's pretty much all the development we have in town. It's a big map with all of the things that have been approved all the way back to Tierra Oak, so it's pretty comprehensive. It took some time to put together, but I think it's a pretty good graphic representation of where developments are geographically, how many subdivisions, and those type of things on there. So I think it looks pretty cool.
And if you're looking for it, it'll be on the GIS section of the website. Thank you. GIS.
Yeah.
Thank you. That'll be it for me. Thank you.
Commissioner Connell?
Yeah, I do have something. I was made aware last week that we don't currently have any type of policy at all in place when somebody wants a proclamation. I believe we should have some form of a policy in place that's either reviewed by us or staff, that it complies with whatever policy we may adopt. With some of the stuff I was told just through conversation that could happen, that we would give it to them, is alarming to me. And so I spoke to Grant concerning the legal side of that, and he's put together a little bit of a list of a couple cities and the state on their policy of what they would or would not give proclamations for. And I would let Grant speak to that a little bit, but I would like some consideration to move forward and put a policy together on proclamations, that we just don't hand them out like lollipops to anybody who wants one. I do believe proclamations are a reflection of the City Commission and the City of Leesburg, and I think we should have some guidelines in place on who we give those to. Grant.
Yes, sir. And, as he was saying, it's sort of a mayoral discretion type issue in terms of the proclamations as far as they're concerned. But, there are a number of cities, counties, and the state, the governor's issued sort of a policy on their websites to kind of explain, discretion in terms of the proclamations. Things may be amended by staff. They may be rejected if they're not acceptable or accepted by the mayor. So ultimately, it does sort of boil down to a discretionary issue, but it may be a good idea, I guess, to sort of broadcast what that typical policy is in terms of proclamations in the city, so that nobody would be surprised that there is some discretion there, and just to be forthright to everybody.
I have a question, please. How would you determine milestones then? How would you determine the discretionary piece? Is that something that the commission would decide?
It's more so a mayoral discretion issue. So, I guess a commissioner theoretically could sort of express some type of dissent from that proclamation after it's read, if they wanted to do that. But ultimately, the mayor would be the one who would have sort of the final say in terms of the proclamation.
Will this criteria be established and written as far as from here going forward, or would there be amendments allowed as they come, as they appear? Because when I think of milestones, that could be anything from families, historical schools, Just think of anything, organizations, businesses.
Yeah, I mean, I think if the commission sort of as a body wanted to discuss generally what policies or what set of policies they were comfortable with, that probably wouldn't be an unhealthy thing to do, so that there was some unified voice, I guess, in terms of what that policy would be. But it's not really something that's memorialized in code per se. So it is flexible in the sense of, being able to adjust maybe what types of things would fall under this is something we could issue a proclamation for versus some other type of action, a letter of congratulations or some other type of recognition that the city might
Acknowledgement or
give.
something.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
So there are different types of acknowledgments or recognitions that could be given, with proclamations being one of those.
And currently, proclamations are primarily driven through staff, who then contact me to make sure I'm okay with reading and doing that as mayor, that I'm okay with reading the proclamation. So I don't know what type of, what do we need to tighten down on, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, my understanding is we have no policy in place at all, and it's been the practice of the city for the years. Anybody who comes in and asks for a proclamation, we give it to them. It's their choice whether they want it read publicly or have the mayor sign it. I just think we should have some policy in place that says there's certain things we're just not going to give you a proclamation for. And that's why I reached out to Grant, because I think it does become a little bit of I don't say a civil rights issue, but a little bit of a picking and choosing. So I wanted to make sure we would be on legal ground. That's why Grant put this criteria together, what other jurisdictions are saying. But I believe we should have some type of written policy on things we're just not going to, as the Commission of Leesburg, issue a proclamation for.
If I can add, and I don't, again, not being adversarial, again, I work for the pleasure of this body. And the unwritten rule of proclamations has been, if somebody requests one, we've typically written one. No matter gender, sexual orientation, national origin, religious preference, whatever. Last meeting, we had a socially divisive proclamation that was read. I don't think having a policy is a bad concept. For example, the Ron DeSantis one that Grant handed out before the meeting, perfect. Strike governor everywhere where you see it and put mayor. Same with the Fort Lauderdale proclamation, and frankly, same with the Sarasota proclamation. All those work the same. At the end of the day, I don't think that's going to stop the controversial issues that's coming before. Now, it may differ who the mayor is. We'll reach directly out to the mayor and say, you want to do this or not do this? And my suggestion would be that if the mayor says no, then you're going to have that organization coming directly to the city saying, why'd you say no? I think that the slippery slope here is not to put staff in the position to where staff and the mayor are choosing. So it's a difficult conversation piece. If we have such, take any one of these three examples, put Leesburg in it, fine. Now you've got a written policy that functions like we've got it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get a proclamation that you don't like.
Well, I would say, I understand if staff doesn't want to make that decision, then I would suggest maybe we put it on a roll call vote prior to, actually on the consent agenda. It could be pulled for discussion, maybe the meeting before it's approved to be read, to get all the commission's opinions on it. Then if staff doesn't want to take that, that responsibility. And I understand that, but I do believe we need to have something in place. And like I said, some of the examples that I was told that we would give out to, they were hypothetical, were alarming to me. So that's why I brought it up tonight. That's why I spoke to Al, I spoke to Grant about it, and I just think we should have some policy in place. And if staff doesn't want to make that decision, I understand, then put it under the consent agenda, and it could be pulled for discussion. If it passes, then it'll be read the following meeting.
Just in direct candor, if you have a policy in place that has staff and or the mayor approve or not approve a proclamation, here's what you're going to get. If an LGBTQ proclamation comes to the city manager's office, the city manager is going to approve that proclamation because the city has a policy that says we don't discriminate. If a devil worshipers came to the city and said, we don't want that, then I think staff would probably be inclined not to do that because that's not a recognized group per se.
When I spoke to you last week, you said we would give them one.
Yeah, because we don't have a policy.
That's one of the things I'm saying was concerning.
We don't have a policy.
That's why we need one.
Okay, but I'm telling you that that will give us maybe a little bit more liberty to cleanse out the crazy, but proclamations that are persistent and pursuant to our existing code will still occur. And commissioners, yourself included, may not like those. And I wouldn't advise that this body vote on a proclamation every time before it's issued. We live in tricky times, we live in litigious times, and we do things that don't necessarily represent us, but it's just the right thing to do because it's persistent with our policies and it's in the best interest of the city to minimize litigation and to put your best foot forward.
Yeah, not just jumping in with what Al said, I tend to agree in terms of that issue. I think as much as anything, the policy just sort of provides notice to everybody, out there that might be asking for a proclamation. But I think that, putting it to a vote before it's read off is probably a little bit more into the weeds than the general idea and policy behind proclamations. I think that the mayoral discretion is kind of the general rule. But, again, the policies that we printed off were pretty vanilla, again, just sort of giving some general information. So I think, if anything, the benefit of that is really just sort of notifying everybody. If you apply, it's not guaranteed it's going to be read off. It may be changed. It may be revised, depending on what the city's comfortable with.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We need something, some type of guidelines.
So again, all I'm saying is this. You approve something like this, you strike out governor, you put in mayor. Right. You do a resolution that adopts a policy on proclamations. This goes on the website. LGBTQ group comes in and says, will you do this proclamation? Mayor says, yep. Then it's done. So I think it's a good policy because now, Jay, when we talked about earlier and I said, yeah, if a devil group came, we would give you a proclamation. I said that. The answer changed tonight because Grant dropped this on our desk and said that, yeah, for really crazy stuff, that this might help filter that out. But frankly, I'm warning the commission. This is a good concept, but this will not fix everything. There will still be proclamations that come before this body that the majority won't agree with. And as long as everybody understands that moving forward, we don't have any issues.
Well, I get you. I'm not sure why you keep bringing up the LBG community, but
we didn't have a problem with the proclamations until that one was passed.
Well, I'm just saying it just got brought to my attention. I did not realize that we had no policy at all on proclamations, that we just give them out to anybody who wants one. So no, I think we should have some guidelines in place. Give us a little discretion on what we just may not want to recognize with a proclamation.
Will we actually have time to review and have a discussion when a proclamation comes in for request? We don't always meet within that time.
No, you won't. And that's why you won't want this body to approve every proclamation. I mean, there's some proclamations that come through the office. It's to recognize the Lions because they're having an annual convention and they need something for the next day.
Yeah.
You know, we haven't had anything crazy. You know, we haven't had anything come in the 10 years I've been here. That's not saying we won't, okay? And we haven't had anything crazy or that was totally contrary to our operational policies to this day that's come across Pam's desk or my desk or the mayor's desk and he signed it, or she, since I've been here. So I get it. I think that the simple written policy is a good way to go. You can keep it at the discretion of the mayor.
Yeah.
That's fine. But, you know, should we have a mayor that doesn't want to adopt a policy, adopt a proclamation on a controversial issue, the repercussion of that's going to be is when the mayor says no, you can expect that group, whoever the group may be, to be standing right up there behind the podium saying, the mayor didn't do this.
And the mayor will have to talk about it.
And that's so, you know, just like Newton's law, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Yeah. My job is to advise you of pitfalls that you may be getting into. I certainly understand the want of a policy, have no issue with that. And if it's this body's desire to instruct me to put together a resolution that adopts a policy, it will be done and it will be on the agenda. Next meeting. I'm just advising that that's not the end-all to be-all, and we will still have controversial issues that we will need to grapple with. That's it.
I just want to add one more comment. I think we should respect the mayor's decision as far as what decisions are made, first and foremost. But I don't think we should try to put a the discretionaries would vary from one group to the other. I don't think that this city needs to be locked in as what's approved and what's not. I think we're all respectable people. We acknowledge people accordingly and treat them fairly. And if it's something that's out of order, the mayor would make a decision and we would support it 100%. But having a criteria is one thing, but to try to have the commission come through and vote before or make meetings, I think we're just opening the doors for a larger issue that we will have to deal with. Just my thoughts.
And I'm fine with that. That was a suggestion, but yeah, if staff and the mayor want to take the responsibility, if we adopt a policy, to see if they think, in their opinion, it meets that criteria, I'm fine with that. I just think we should have something in place. But I mean, if the mayor or staff didn't want to take that responsibility, that's why I suggested possibly put it on the agenda for an overall vote, so they're not singling out a single person on either yay or nay. But yeah, I'm good either way. But I just think we should put a policy in place.
My opinion is that we have a working model right now. We don't have a policy. And that model says someone from the public brings to the staff, they would like a proclamation, very similar to what's in the governor's information. And then the governor or the mayor is approached, will you read the proclamation? And that decision is made. In the information from the governor and a piece that I would like, if we are going to have a formal document, would be that we have a right to modify or deny any proclamation requests. So it may free us legally from, it doesn't get you in the court of public appeal, but
yeah, and that's
we need
kind
to spell out that we will do it or we won't do it, and it's really a mayor discretion.
And that was sort of what I was getting at with the notice issue, is it, if nothing else, sort of puts everybody on notice that there is discretion to amend, modify, or even outright reject a proclamation request.
So, I'm in agreement. That's not a bad thing, but I don't think our model's broken with,
But we don't really have a model. We just give anybody.
Well, I mean, our model is pretty much exactly what the governor's office, it goes to his office, the staff brings it to the governor decides, so in our case, it would come through staff, go to the mayor would decide whether he wants to read it or not. And we can have in that, a statement that we can deny it, for any
I
cause.
just think it would give you a little bit more teeth to deny something you can't some form of a written policy guideline, outline, if you will, of what's, would be acceptable and what's really not.
Yeah. So, as a matter of consent, how do the other commissioners feel?
I'd say my simple position is what's been in place has worked. I'm fine staying where we're at right now. I think drawing more attention to this is probably going to create an issue for us. We're probably going to be challenged on this. I would hope that if the mayor has discretion, if they were concerned about one, I'm sure they would speak to our attorney. But I'm fine staying where we're at. I think we're overly complicating this.
I would be okay with copying this model and changing it with mayor, just implement some kind of policy.
Were you talking about the governor's example, Commissioner?
Either or.
Either or, any of them? Okay, yes, sir, thank you.
Gives the discretion to you.
Does it? Okay.
We'll get it on the next agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Berry?
I have nothing else at this time.
Commissioner Peterson?
Nothing tonight.
Mayor Burry?
Yeah, one little thing that hopefully we can address a few concerns. Last week we had the quarterly MPO meeting. MPO is the Metropolitan Planning Organization. MPO is your local conduit for citizens to have a say in what projects in the transportation world and where they rank with DOT funds coming to us as to what can be done. I'm here to tell you that there are 20 projects on that list that the professionals have put together. Leesburg has one. It ranks, last year it was 4 or 5, this year we're 4. So we moved up one notch. And that is the widening of 441 from Perkins area to Newell Hill to make that whole corridor, 3 lanes each way. But, so what that means to us as a group is that unfortunately when some citizens don't like, the amount of cars that are getting on their road, it is hard for us to get up there and ride that horse when our MPO isn't even talking about it. So I would encourage those of you who are concerned about the roads in your area, the MPO is who you need, and it is a citizens active group. So, I would encourage you to talk to them. And that's all I got tonight. Motion for?
So moved.
Second. We're done.